begin, I want to let you know I've got some good news and I got some bad news. So the good news is that God knows exactly what God is doing. The bad news is, this is it. You know, there's so much chaos in the world right now between the wars and the floods and the earthquakes and political division that it just makes you wonder. And that's what started this inner journey that I had. About a month ago, I was driving and this question came up into my mind. And it was, what if what I believe is really true? Wouldn't I see things differently? And even if world conditions didn't change, wouldn't my perspective or my judgment be different? And if I could change my perspective, why wouldn't I just do it and then just see unicorns and rainbows instead of suffering? And that question stuck with me, and you're going to be part of my process this morning because it's taken me this amount of time to kind of work through it, so I came to a place of peace with it. So I want to ask you, how many of you believe that there's a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it? That's most of the room. How many of you believe in divine right order and divine right action? That meaning that there's no coincidences, there's no synchronicities, but there's no accidents, that everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to at the right time. And is the eclipse behind me? Yeah. Okay, I want you to know, my friend Melanie and I were watching the eclipse in my front yard yesterday, and she took this picture. Wow. And the whole time I kept thinking about that synchronicity of what it took for these two orbs way out millions of miles in space coming together and making that connection. And that I just thought that was so cool. So Crystal was great to be able to put it together. So anyway, that was in my front yard. Wow. Mm-hmm. And my last question is, how many of you believe that God or Source, whatever you call it, is the essence of all that is? Okay, so for those of you who can't see, most everybody is in agreement. That makes you really good religious scientists. Because this is what our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, teaches in The Science of Mind. And specifically on page 290, it's unequivocal. So I'm going to read you this quote. No mistakes have been made, none are being made, and none can be made. There is one supreme intelligence which governs, guides, and guards, telling me what to do, when to act, and how to act. So how different would your life be if you truly believed what Dr. Holmes says? And you knew that everything was in divine order, that indeed there's a power for good in the universe, and whether you know it or not, you're using it every day. That all there is love, that everyone is right where they're supposed to be, and everything that's happening to you is happening exactly the way it's supposed to be happening. Everything is working so hard to bring this perfect moment together. What if you knew all of that was true, and then you lived your life that way? Well, that was the conversation I was having with myself driving to the bank to make a bank deposit. And because I was pretty much into that thinking, when I got out of the car, I suddenly realized I may have locked the keys in the car. But because I was where I was, I immediately, without skipping a beat, was like, that's not how I thought my morning was going to go. Wonder if I'm going to meet a handsome tow truck driver. Now, I want you to know, if I had not been thinking those thoughts, it probably would have gone more like, oh no, I'm not going to have enough time to get everything done. And oh, where's my AAA card? Oh God, did I leave it in the car? So I think you all know that dialogue pretty well. And that's what made the question even more important, because I do believe in what I say I believe. So how could I have a reaction like that? If I know better, why don't I do better? So basically, what I'm going to be sharing with you this morning is my journey, as arduous as it was. We're trying to make sense of all this, and I hope that you can relate to this. Does this make sense for you guys? Yes. Okay. It would seem that if you really believe everything is unfolding the way it's supposed to, that you'd know everything that's showing up is what you need. You'd understand that even if you don't want that particular lesson on that particular day, that there would be a knowing that it was there supporting you and your spiritual journey and awakening. So even if you didn't like it, you would be okay with it. And since I do believe that, I find it curious that my typical day is making a list of to-do things and then get frustrated when things don't go the way I want them to do. So first thing I did was I started visualizing how different my normal day would be if I practiced what I preach. In that particular scenario, when things showed up that were unexpected, instead of getting frustrated, it seems like my first reaction would be one of curiosity. This isn't what I expected. I wonder why it's here. I wonder what I'm supposed to learn from this. The second thing would be that I would be in the present moment, because I don't have a past or a future reference. It's unexpected. It's just showing up. And then I realized I would also have no judgment about it, because if I knew everything was happening the way it's supposed to, I wouldn't have any concern about what the outcome was going to be. I wouldn't be afraid of what was going to happen. And because I know it's all for my highest good, really, underneath it all would be kind of a sense of excitement, a joy. Well, we can compare that to my normal reaction. And all I could figure out when I did that comparison was that I wasn't expecting what was going to show up. So it's about a change to the program. And that change could be bad. It could cost money. It could take a lot of time. It could hurt. So anything that's showing up that wasn't what I expected, I'm not in control of. And if I'm not in control of it, I'm in fear. Now, Brené Brown, she shows us that, our emotions are here as our guidelines to let us know when we're going off the rails. So when that happens, it's just a notification that something could be changed. Brené Brown also states in our Book of the Quarter, Atlas of the Heart, in a world where perfectionism, pleasing, and proving are used as armor to protect our egos and our feelings, it takes a lot of courage to show up and be all in when we can't control the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is our greatest measure of courage. So what she's telling us is if we're not in control, it's a very vulnerable situation, and it takes a lot of courage to be able to respond differently. Change makes us afraid, and not being in control makes us afraid. So I think I can understand why we like things to go our way, and we go to such lengths to keep our hands on the wheel. But you know, when all this started coming up, this divine right order and divine right action piece was shining this light saying, maybe you should let go and let God. Remember that slogan? Yeah, well, just recycling again on that evolutionary spiral. Let go and let God. Well, I'm also a student of A Course in Miracles. And in lesson 24, it says, I know not what's in my own best interests. And it goes on to explain that we only know what we perceive. And our perceptions are pretty skewed by our filters and our conditioning. So it's not a real reliable source of what's really happening. And also, it's a very small piece. I remember back when I was reading Louise Hay and You Can Heal Your Life. And she would say, you go up to the top of a mountain and you look down in the valley and you see all those interconnections, how everything interlinks with each other. And wait just a minute. Here, it's perfect. This is just coming at just the right moment, like that sun and moon, to make that intersection. And from that vantage point, you can see a whole lot more. So this is kind of how it looked when I put these side by side. If I allow God, Source, to take the wheel, my attitude is one of love, not fear. I would be in the present moment, which is all there is. I would have no attachment or judgment because I would know everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And I would feel joy, and all of that would bring me peace. Now, Connie's on the wheel. Choices are limited to what I perceive. Things always have to go my way. And any change to the plan will bring fear and suffering. I think you get the picture. So this loop kept spinning, and I was kind of stuck on it, and thank God for you and me. About a week ago, a new thought came in, and more of a fresh insight into looking at this. And what happened was, instead of trying to answer that why question, it became, well, where do I go from here? What do I do with this? This why thing was just keeping me stuck in the problem. So there is a story I thought of that I want to read to you that I know many of you have already read because it was published in 1977, and I think I read it in the early 80s. Always learning. And it will just help give you an idea of the process of why we get stuck. It's called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I remember that one. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in this same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. And chapter 5, I walk down another street. You might want to take a moment and see where you are. Are you still walking down the street and falling in the hole and blaming the road department? Maybe you've learned that when you're in the hole, it was your fault and you get out pretty quick. It's just a real good measure of the journey. My question was, why did I keep falling into the same hole over and over? And Portia Nelson answered it in the book. She said, it's our habit, it's our conditioning. So then, of course, the next question was, well, how do I bypass that? How do I get out of that? And then I had another shift. So this is it. Here is your answer. How many times do I have to fall in the same hole? As many as it takes. Falling into the hole for 3 chapters or 30 chapters is perfect. Because that's what it takes to get us to chapter 4. So whatever we're doing is part of the divine right order. And because there's no time, and we have so many lifetimes, it really doesn't matter how long it takes. It's our intention. It's our judgment that we need to get through those chapters really quickly that keeps our hands on the wheel. Undoing is generally a process, although some people have done it, instantaneously. But for most of us, it is a process and sometimes a lengthy one. Dr. Carolyn, I remember when you used to tell us, just keep putting clean water in that bucket of dirty water and eventually the water will be clean. And I think that's what we're doing. We come here Sunday after Sunday, we take class after class, we read book after book, and every book, every class is just another drop of clean water into that bucket. I think it's sometimes hard to see how far we've come. And there are many times now that I automatically am just on a different street and not even realizing it because it has become automatic. They also say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And how blessed we all are that we have found this center, this teaching, each other to support us through this process, each one of us helping keep us back on track when we're starting to go off the rails. And just all of that, constantly adding another drop of clean water into our bucket. And, we're really lucky that we're here studying the science of mind because it is about universal spiritual truths. And not only does it teach us that there's another street, but it gives us the tools to be able to get there. When I started thinking about all this, I really thought I was going to come up with this great, precise, concise answer, and I was just going to wow you. It was going to be, bam, that is so great. But then as I kept working it really just went back to life as a process. And we're all doing it perfectly. That's the divine right order and divine right action piece again. There is no one perfect answer, and my answer won't be your answer. We're all doing the best we can, and if we could do better, we would do better. It's just kind of that onion layers thing again. And it's also, it's not this way or that way. It's not my way or your way. It's this way and that way. So I can know better and I cannot do better yet. We're spiritual beings. We're whole, complete, and perfect. And we're human beings trying to figure it all out and learn it and master it. And it's okay to hold both. That is the paradox is part of the excitement, even though it does, until you understand that, it makes you crazy. And this was another piece that was so important to me, that we need to have compassion instead of judgment while we're in this process. Do you all remember the serenity prayer? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think that's perhaps one of the wisest teachings of all time. We are where we are. We do what we can do. We keep an open mind. We surround ourselves with goodness. We have the template for the truth, and we open to it the best we can. We treat and move our feet. We're paying attention and doing the best we can to be authentic. And as Brene Brown reminds us, it takes courage to be on this journey, the journey to be authentic. So how would I answer my original question? What if all this is really true? Well, it is. And why, if I know better, don't I do better? I am doing better. And just asking the question may be my best today. And that's perfect. And I know that just thinking about this and going through this process will make a difference in maybe the choice I'm going to make tomorrow. I know that for all of you too. In closing, I want to share with you a story that I'm remembering to the best of my ability, because Reverend Dr. James Golden shared it in one of his Sunday talks quite a while ago. So I would like to leave you with this. He recounted the time when he was studying in an ashram with many other students, and it had been a long day of presentations, and finally the guru was complete and got up to leave the room, and he was walking through all the students who were sitting on the floor. And right when he got to the door to leave, he paused. Something stopped him, and he turned around, and there was this palpable silence in the room. And he looked at his students, and this is what he said. I see each of you. I see what you've carried. I see what you're carrying now. I see all that you've struggled to learn. I see all the practices that you've done, not just in this lifetime, but over many lifetimes. You can't see it in yourself, but I can see it in you. I can see how far you've come. You've come so far. And you're so close. You're so close. Don't give up. Namaste. You guys. Thank you so much. And now it is, I wanted to do the healing meditation now because it would just kind of bring all this more personal for us. And I want to go back and reread that quote from Dr. Holmes, because that really is the lesson. So if you want to just take a moment and settle in, close your eyes if you choose. Listen to these words again. No mistakes have been made. None are being made. And none can be made. There is one supreme intelligence which governs, guides, and guards, telling me what to do, when to act, and how to act. With that thought in mind, I am truly knowing that all is in divine and perfect order, that we are all here not by any accident, each one of us drawn together this morning for this perfect connection with each other. I know that everything is divinely orchestrated and led, that we're guided and guarded and governed by this supreme law of love. I'm knowing that no matter whatever is happening, no matter what is happening, that at the very core, there is only God, there is only love, there is only a greater understanding and knowing waiting to be revealed. So this gives me peace. I can trust in this. I know that I don't have to figure it out, that my greater gift is to surrender, to let it go, to listen, and to follow. And I'm so grateful for all of us being able to be here to share this journey, to support and lift each other on the path, and to know that everything is all coming together in a divine and perfect plan. I know that we take this out into our daily lives, that we have a moment now and again to remember. No mistakes have been made, none are being made, and none can be made. All is good, all is God, and so it is. So it is. And now I would like to welcome Tobin back to the stage for